All right. What's up, fellas? Welcome to Last Cut Farm Team. This is a new podcast, episode 1. Go us, go team. Uh, Honestly, today I'm just trying to find my stride. A little bit about me. My name's Chad. I suppose, the host. Um, I'm a sports guy. This is a sports podcast. If you're here looking for something other than sports, you're probably not in the right place. But that's okay. You're welcome to stay and hang out and vibe. If you want to just put this on in the background, listen to me ramble, feel free. Ain't nothing wrong with that. The unfortunate thing for me, even though I love baseball, all baseball, I've been a little bit more of a casual in recent years. Not truly a casual, because I'm a fan of my team, which I'll get to in a moment. But on the whole, I know a majority of the league pretty well. I used to, about a decade ago, when I had more time because I was a teenager and had no job and just kind of hung out playing video games. I knew pretty much the entire roster of every major league and whatever minor leaguers were accurate in whatever it was, 2K11 or 2K13, somewhere in that range. Um, it was a lot of fun playing those games. I don't quite know every roster like that anymore, but I do know one team pretty well, the Miami Marlins. I'm a diehard, you know. This year and many others. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I started following the team in probably 2006. I wasn't really that conscious before then. Um, at least, I was, but not conscious enough to really know what was going on. Um, but yeah, so back when Jorge Cantu was the third baseman, Hanley was at short. Uh, Nonetheless, that was a really good offense for us, infield wise at least. Then of course we had the mid 2010s team with an all-time outfield. You could put them up against a lot of outfields throughout MLB history, and they are up there. You have two guys that won an MVP and one guy who's making a decent case this year if he stays hot. He is a DH, and it's hard to win an MVP at DH, but Ozuna, Stanton, and Yelich, that was our outfield for a trio years or so. A little more than a trio. I think 2014 to 20. No, yeah, I guess it was three or 4 years. But yeah, those were good teams. If we had pitching beyond Jose Fernandez, that team could have done something. 2017, if Jose didn't have the boating accident, that would have been a squad. But back to present day, we're not having a good year, and it happens. The 2024 Marlins, at time of recording, we're currently playing the Astros. I believe it's a 6-1 deficit at the moment. Xavier Edwards had a RBI base hit a minute ago. But on the season, we currently have 32 wins. I believe we're, whatever it is, 32 and something. I don't know. 32 and, yeah, something. Not important. 32 and 59. Thank you, broadcast, for so graciously showing me the record. Yeah, we're not having a great year. Trade deadline's coming up. We're probably gonna move some pieces. Tanner Scott almost definitely on the move. I know there have been not leaks, but rumors regarding Jazz. I kind of hope that doesn't happen selfishly, for two reasons. One, because the Marlins could get more value out of Jazz if he has a full season where he's healthy. it's right now he's played 124 games is the longest he's played in a season, and that in and of itself is, it's okay, but it's one of those things where you need to have, back in the day it was 155. Now 145 is kind of looked at as a full season. If you get 500 plus at bats, that's good job, good on you. You didn't take too many off days. I have a bit of an old head mentality when it comes to that, but if he were able to put together a full season, even if it's average or slightly below average by his standards, I feel like we could definitely squeeze more out of that fruit. Not saying that all I want is for a player to do well to trade him. No, it would be better for him because he'd be able to argue for more money in arbitration, which ultimately helps him. And he'd probably get to go to a winning franchise. Miami, love him to death, but we have not really ever been a winning franchise. Feels like every year we make the playoffs, the next year we decide to tear it down. And I get, sell when the value's high, but sometimes you gotta let it play out for a minute. Like, Jazz, in my eyes, in Lone Depot, obviously he's hindered. He has the potential for probably a 20-45 season. I maybe 25 homers. I don't think he would get to 30 while playing in Miami, to be honest. Marlins Park is a hard park to hit home runs. Stanton was a different animal. Stanton is a different animal. Even now, even after his injury-riddled seasons, even when he's a little bit slower in his stride now to try to protect his muscles because they're just so ripplingly big that he tears them every time he walks. He's a different beast. 59 in Marlins Park. Obviously, there was the games on the road and everything, but I think he hit more. I could be wrong. I don't have the stats in front of me. I could look it up. I might as well. I have my phone here. But I think he had more home runs at home that year. Giancarlo Stanton, 2017, home road splits. We'll use Fangraphs. Shout out Fangraphs for being the first option that I saw. Alright, let's see. Home road splits 2017. He had 31 at home, 28 on the road. It's about what I thought. I knew he had more at home, which is crazy to think about because that was, I believe, still before they moved the fences in the last time. Not positive on that. I know I played a game in Marlins Park when right after they moved him in the first time, and that was 2013, 2014. It might have been 15. Regardless, doing that again is a tall task for any hitter, but it's one of those things where, like, if for instance, let's say Jazz, right? He goes to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, or he goes to play with Christian Yelich in Milwaukee. He's probably 30 to 40 a year home runs. With the lineup around him, Cincinnati could use him. I mean, he could fill in a number of spots: center field, shortstop, second base, DH. You probably plug him in left or right, and he'll figure it out. I mean, he's athletic. That's the thing. That's why you draft shortstops coming out of high school and college, because they're athletic. They can figure it out. And Jazz is that guy. Especially while he's young and he has his wheels. Once he gets a little older, he's going to have to kind of figure out a bit more finesse when it comes to running the bases and doing the baseball thing. But for right now, man, he's got to use that athleticism. And he does it well. I've seen rumors of him potentially going to, Kansas City, which I like the Royals. That's a good young team. Bobby Witt Jr. is a freak. He would be a solid bat in that lineup. That the offense, when Miami was there, was scuffling. I don't know if they've kind of figured it out yet or not, but it would be an interesting piece. The more interesting thing with that for me is that Jazz, I mean, I don't know if it's widely known, but he played high school ball in Kansas. And I don't know what percentage of y'all out there heard the podcast that Jazz went on earlier in the year, The Pivot. And he was talking about his time in Kansas, and he kind of said there was like no redeemable qualities out of that. Like Channing Crowder, I think, was pressing him like, there's got to be something that was good. Might have been Ryan Clark. One of them was like, there's got to be something that was, beneficial being there. Like something, you learned something along the way. Maybe you didn't realize it at the time, but and he's like, nope, nothing. Not a thing was good coming out of that. And like I just think it would be kind of funny. In, a kind of not malicious way, but it'd just be kind of comical to see him make, comments about Kansas and then get traded to Kansas City in the middle of the season and have Kansas City want him there. It would almost be poetic, ironically poetic. The teams that Craig Mish mentioned as far as being interested in Jazz are the Mariners, the Royals, and the Dodgers. I could see him fitting in all those lineups. The Dodgers, I was thinking about this earlier in the year. The Dodgers with Jazz, that's just such a scary, scary thought. That lineup is already ridiculous. Where would he even hit? Would he slot in 7th? That team would be wild. The Mariners, being on the East Coast, or I guess West Coast of Florida, but East Coast of the states, I don't really pay attention to West Coast all that much just because it's, on the West Coast and the games start when I need to go to bed. But the Mariners team, every year, it always feels like they got a squad. I know they got their guy in center with Julio, which Julio's another freak. That guy can ball. The interesting thing is, where would he slot? Would he go back to second? Because he got Julio in center and J.P. Crawford at short. I don't know who they got at second base. But I feel like that's the natural spot. Either that or they try him in left or right. Or maybe DH just to kind of keep him off his feet. Obviously, you're wasting the athleticism, but you want him healthy. It's kind of the same thing with Royce Lewis, which, love Royce Lewis. Dude's a monster. Was it 10 home runs in 16 games? That's crazy. Anyway, back to trade talks. Jazz, Tanner Scott, we're probably going to move. I can imagine a few other guys on the block. I feel like Josh Bell is either going to get traded or DFA'd at some point this year. I'm hoping traded just so we can get something back. I like Josh Bell, but he's just so streaky. He gets on insane hot streaks like last year, where he just went on a tear once he got to Miami. I think he hit almost as many home runs in like half as many games with Miami as opposed to Cleveland in the same year. So before he even got traded to Miami, I wanted him in Miami. I'm like, this is a guy who would be a good fit, switch hitter, big power threat. And I mean, he can produce. You put a team around him, you get hot streaks are contagious. You put a hot team around a guy who's streaky, he'll heat up. But I've seen Bell potentially linked to the Pirates. But Bell's probably going to move. We've already released Tim Anderson, which is disappointing. He was another guy that I was hoping we'd pick up last year, and we did. I thought he'd be a good bounce-back candidate, and so did the team, apparently. But it felt like he was starting to kind of figure it out there. I mean, he wasn't driving the ball at all, and that was kind of his problem. He wasn't lifting it. But he's no longer with the team, so no value for us to get there. Avisail Garcia was released a while ago. That's kind of water under the bridge at this point. I am glad we dropped him off, at least off the 40 man. If we kept him in the minors, that would have been all right with me. Obviously you don't want the money on your books, but the money's going to be on the books either which way. So we did what we had to. I hope he finds a spot and does well, because I don't like to see people struggle. I don't like to see people get hurt, and it was unfortunate, kind of his career with Miami. There was a lot more that the fans wanted from him, and a lot more that he wanted to give to the fans, I'm sure. I've heard mention of potentially moving Brian De La Cruz and Jesus Sanchez. I'm okay with the former getting moved, but not the latter. I think Jesus Sanchez has still top, top, top potential. Truly. Truly, truly, truly. He's got so much pop. I went to a game on the 4th this year, and he nearly hit for the cycle in the 7th inning or later. And he's another guy that is just real streaky, and, obviously it's the whole, if he figures it out, he's going to be a menace, but I believe in his ability to kind of figure it out. I don't think that he's necessarily strictly a platoon bat either, because there have been times where he's been out there versus a lefty and it's gone well. He just doesn't get enough at bats. I feel the way about Jesus Sanchez that Skip Schumacher did about Brian De La Cruz when he accepted the Miami Marlins managerial job. He said he wanted De La Cruz to play most games, get 500, 600 at-bats, and see what numbers he could put up. And he was right about him. He's having a better year this year than last year. Maybe not average-wise. I think it's about the same average-wise. But home run-wise, he's already approaching his full-year total from last year. He had 19 last year. He's got 15 already this year. If I would love to see a full year out of De La Cruz and Jesus Sanchez, especially because we still got team control. Same thing with Jazz. We still have team control. If we just have patience with Jazz. This year, a lot of people are saying it's a bust. I think Fangraphs was like, we have a 0.0 chance of making the playoffs, which, yeah, probably pretty close. But we're not mathematically eliminated yet. That's the one thing. Yes, the season's most likely a wash, and we're probably going to be sellers at the deadline. But, I don't like admitting defeat until the fat lady truly sings. But I think if we held on to Jazz and Jesus Sanchez and Brian De La Cruz and even Jake Burger, because there's still plenty of control with him, I think the team wants to build around Jake Burger, actually. If he can kind of find his stroke from the end of last year, kind of in the second half of this year, I think the team wants to build around him. I do. I think that's their guy. Him and hopefully Jesus Sanchez. I know they're listening on everybody, but if you have those two guys, you have your big right-handed power threat and your big left-handed power threat. That's a hell of a combo. That's a hell of a 1-2 punch. Not many teams would want to go against those two. If they were both hot and both in their prime, that's a 3-4, more likely a 4-5, because we don't really have a true 3 right now. Which brings me to another topic. Miami's a big league club. They feel like a big league club until they play a team that is that team, like the Astros or the Dodgers. I was gonna say or the Braves, but even this year we've been fighting the Braves pretty good. Like the Braves, the Phillies, we give them the business. Nationals this year, all of a sudden, they're just casting us asunder. But Rays, another team that just beats up on us, and it's it's not for nothing that, these teams are good teams. These teams are World Series caliber teams. And that's kind of the thing. We haven't really had a World Series caliber team since that 2016, 2017 Marlins, if you had Jose Fernandez and a couple other pieces. And this is me daydreaming, but just imagine last year's rotation with Jose Fernandez up there at the top, Sandy and Jose, the same pitching staff with Jesus Luzardo, Braxton Garrett pitching lights out. That's a crazy staff. That's a crazy staff. Then you just sprinkle the, 2016, 2017 outfield back in there. Let them boys go play. That would have been crazy. We wouldn't have ever gotten to that point because we would have either traded or lost players to free agency. I don't think we would actually have lost anyone to free agency because we would have traded them before it got to that point. But I mean, that's kind of my thing or my thinking with this is we're gonna trade players. It's gonna happen. It's the Marlins, especially now that Peter Bendix is in there. He wants the Rays model. The Rays model is trade players. Use them, abuse them, the pitchers at least. Get them out of there. And I mean, to some extent, that is a good strategy. It'll help get you to where you need to go and do it on, without spending hundreds of millions of dollars. And I respect that. Any team that can make the playoffs without spending, over $100 million, they know something. They figured something out. So the Rays model is probably a good model. It's gonna hurt a lot for a couple of years till we kind of figure out how to do it. But who knows? Maybe it'll be worth it. I hope it is. I have no choice but to believe in the higher ups of the team at this point. All right, I'm gonna wrap up real quick. If anybody has any suggestions for questions or topics or anything that I could maybe discuss in future episodes, feel free to leave a comment. Tell me if you think I'm right on the money or way off base, out of pocket, whatever you truly believe in your heart of hearts. Yeah, and then, like and subscribe. I'd say the YouTube thing. I might have this on another app. I don't really know yet where I'm going to put this other than YouTube. But yeah. Thank you guys for listening. If you did, I'm going to try to drop somewhat frequently. I need to find my stride before I really commit to a weekly or any kind of drop. At least during the season, I'm going to do something like that. In the off season, I'm going to try to do more in-depth videos with more editing and more stats. But we'll see, We'll see how it goes. But yeah, man. Thanks for listening. I'm Chad. This was Last Cut Farm Team. Till next time, fellas.